featuring all-rounded leaders who have shaped our nation and the world. Today, we find ourselves at a remarkable cusp, where technology is transforming how we learn, where critical thinking has become the paramount skill, and the very definition of educational success is being reimagined. As we navigate between preserving timeless values and embracing revolutionary pedagogies, the question isn't whether education is changing, but how we can shape that change to serve humanity's highest aspiration. Our moderator for this evening, for this panel, is Mr. Uday Pratap Singh, 533 Jaipur House, batch of 2007. He's a seasoned television journalist who currently serves as senior editor of NewsX, anchoring primetime debates, bulletins, and programs. After his time at Chandbagh, he went to Hindu College briefly before graduating from the University of St. Andrews in Scotland. His expertise, covering multiple general elections, makes him the perfect moderator to navigate the complex terrain of educational discussions we're going to have today. We're excited to have such a skilled debate moderator guide this crucial conversation. Allow me to also introduce our panelists for today. The first is Mr. Arun Kapur. He is a St. Stephen's College graduate who spent over a decade as a master and housemaster at the Doon School before founding Vasant Valley School in New Delhi in 1990, nurturing it into India's leading co-educational school today. Since 2008, he has served as director of the Druk Gyalpa's Institute in Bhutan, a visionary educational project of His Majesty the King of Bhutan. He is also founder and chairman of Ritinjali, an NGO for community development amongst marginalized communities in India. He was awarded the Druk Thukse Award, the Royal Order of Bhutan, in 2019, and in December 2024, he was awarded the Red Scarf and Patang by the King of Bhutan for his contribution towards education. His journey from Doon School master to an educational innovator embodies the evolution of learning across generations. Our second panelist for today is Ms. Vasvi Bharatram, who is joint vice chairperson of the Shri schools and a pioneering force in Indian education. With education from London College of Fashion and executive education from the Harvard Business School, she spearheaded the acclaimed IB program in 2005. As immediate past president of the FICCI Ladies Organization, FLO, and a champion of women's empowerment in education, she represents the transformative power of women's leadership in creating learning environments that nurture both academic excellence and social responsibility. Mr. Nishad Das, who is joining us virtually today, he's 950 Hyderabad House, batch of 1982. He serves as Dean of Globalism and Experiential Learning at Groton School, Massachusetts, USA, where he leads global education initiatives and has organized exchanges across 5 continents. Having worked at leading boarding schools across the US and the UK, he brings a unique international perspective to educational transformation. On a personal note, he was also my exchange coordinator when I went there. His mentorship exemplifies how great educators shape lives across continents and decades. He will be joining us virtually today. Mr. Harpal Singh, our fourth panelist, 322 Hyderabad House, batch of 1965, has served as president of the DSOBS from 1992 to 1994. He is a graduate of St. Stephen's College and California State University. He began his career in the Tata Administrative Services and rose to lead major companies including Fortis Healthcare and SRL Diagnostics. For over 30 years, he has been deeply engaged in school education at the board level, serving institutions such as our school and the Shri schools. As founder, chairman of the Nanni Jan Foundation and former vice chair of Save the Children International, he has championed causes ranging from disadvantaged children's welfare to public health and environmental sustainability, exemplifying the DOSCO commitment to the aristocracy of service. May I please request all our panelists and our moderator to come on stage.
Hello, hello.
I'm 15 years now.
Hello and welcome, and thank you to those who are still with us from the first panel, and welcome to those of you joining us for this next panel at the DOSCO Summit 2025. The panels have been structured very, very interestingly and well, of course, focusing on leadership and service. But what do we go to school for at the end of the day? It is for an education. And that's going to be the focus of our next panel, a very, very representative panel. In fact, the most representative panel of the day, if I can say. We have, of course, a woman on it. So loud round of applause for her. And we also have someone who didn't study at the Doon School, but of course taught there as well. We also have a guest joining us internationally. He's woken up pretty early. It would have been PT time at the Doon School, but I don't know if there's PT at the Groton School in Massachusetts where you are, Nishad. You can tell us when we come to you. And of course, we have Harpal Singh ji. So let me begin with you first, Arun Kapur, and let's just start out by setting the tone and tenor for this panel. How do you believe education has changed, imparting of it over the years, and where do you see things headed?
Oh, thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be here. When you say that how things are going to change, but things, we must understand, things never stopped changing. We are on an evolutionary path since human beings came on to the planet. So change is inevitable. That's the only constant, as everybody says. How things will change will depend a lot on who we are talking about. That's the whole aspect, because there's no consistency apart from the fact that things will change. Things will change first, will change later. What do you want change? Who are you talking about? If you talk to people in this room who are looking at, and as was said, we saw in the last panel, leadership in so many ways. Actually, people in this room can make sure that the change that is going to happen happens across the world in a way. So how do you make the change, I think, is a much more important question, that is there going to be change? And what will change? Things will change differently for different people at different points of time. The idea that everybody has talked about how technology is going to be embedded in everything that we do, the fact that we got Nishad from here, this is now not anything to think about. How's it going to go? How's robotics coming into it or not coming in? I think what will make a big, huge difference is how much technology we can keep out of the lives of young children growing up. That's going to be the challenge, because it's in there and very difficult to kind of disentangle with that. That's the change that I'm worried about, of not being able to deal with. How do we make sure that technology just doesn't come and take us into the young kids? After that, they will deal with it.
Okay. Nishad, let me come to you on that now, because we've dealt with the first part of the topic, that is, of course, changing phases. Arun Kapur has weighed in on that. The second part of the topic is actually on values of education. So what, according to you, defines the values of education, and in what way should values guide the way education is imparted in our schools globally? I think you're on mute.
Okay, can you all hear me now?
Yes, perfectly.
Okay, thank you, Uday, so much for moderating this session, and thank you to Junaid for inviting me to this wonderful panel with some very distinguished guests and fellow panelists. Wonderful to finally see you. We've been doing it sort of online. And I just want to let the audience know that I can't see you, but I look forward to you guys making a lot of noise. So let's start with trying to define what we mean by values in an educational system. And when I think of any educational system and its values, I think of the Doon School, because that's where my formative years happened. And when I think of the main school and I think of our teachers, I think of the value of scholarship. When I think of a cricket match being played on the main field and inter-house sports, I think of the value of character, which can be an umbrella for many other values. When I think of the way we at Dune literally ran everything from the tuck shop, the audiovisual society, the stagecom, the bank, something I actually haven't seen in any other school, the way it was done at Dune. I think of the value of sort of leadership and service. You know, when I think of the hospital, I think, of course, of health and safety. When I think of my fellow DOSCOs who came from different parts of India, different ethnicities, different religions, I think of the value of diversity. When I think of being hauled into the headmaster's office, actually, I was never hauled into the headmaster's office. I escaped getting any YCs. In other words, as DOSCOs would say, I never got caught. But I definitely got hauled into my housemaster's office. And I think of the way the headmaster, our housemaster, and our teachers delivered this sort of ethical and moral education. That's a very important value. And then finally, if you think about this summit, some 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years after we've sort of left Dune, and we're all here together as DOSCOs, I think of a very, very important value of community. And I'll just say sort of three quick things about this. And that is, the first thing is for any institution, every program that you have should be aligned with your value system. The second thing I would say is that any new building, any new program that you hope to add to the school, they should not only be aligned with your values, but they should hopefully augment some of them. And then finally, you know, we talk about changing values, but I would say values are more sort of timeless for the most part, but they do evolve with each generation. So I would say that every 5 years, every 10 years, whether it's part of your strategic plan or your 5-year plan, have a look at these values and review them, because you know things do change and our priorities change as we move forward in time. So I'll stop there. Thanks.
Okay. I'll come back to you, but Vasvi, let me quickly rope you in here now to talk a bit about EQ. And by EQ, I don't mean entertainment quotient. We DOSCOs would know how to get our NT, as would be called, but emotional quotient. How do you impart EI along with AI, that is emotional intelligence as well, to students? Why don't you begin by talking a bit about that?
Thank you, Uday, and thank you, Junaid and Akash, for inviting me here today. When I saw the invite and I was the only woman amongst a sea of blue and black men, I was a little taken aback, but it brought me back to my school days, where in a big group of DOSCOs, I was always the only girl. So I'm actually very comfortable doing this. And also with stalwarts like Mr. Harpal Singh and Sir, I've always called him Sir, from he was the very first person I met when we went to drop my brother to Dune. He was the housemaster, and I have the greatest respect for both of them. So it's a huge honor to be here today. Everything is always changing. And COVID has taught us that, I know there was a question on mental health and resilience earlier. And whilst it was always been in the background, the importance of it, COVID actually threw this up very, very strongly, where I think we all know people who went through difficult times at that time. And all of us who were running schools and colleges realized how many people, students, teachers, families, were all going through some kind of difficulty or the other. The world is going to change. Our children are going to grow up in a world where AI is disruptive, there's climate change, and jobs as we know it are not going to exist. So what can we do about it? We can't future-proof them, but we can future-prepare them. And there are many, many things that we can do that, and I think all good education institutions are already doing it. The first thing is changing mindset. They don't need to learn a skill set anymore. They need to change mindset. They don't need to know what to learn. They just need to know how to learn, because the content is rapidly evolving at the speed of light. And all we need to do is to train them to be able to access what they need and work with what they need. We need to move from rote to actual relevance, to be able to actually apply whatever there is available to them. They need to build their own resilience. And I think boarding schools do that way better than day schools. Children are sent in there at 11 and 12. They have to deal with their peers of all age groups. They have no parents to fall back on. They learn to manage. And I think children in boarding schools are actually better prepared for this. And resilience is really the most important literacy these days. They need to be lifelong learners. So whatever curveball is thrown at them, they are not taken aback. They need to take onus of their own well-being. Nobody is going to come and help you with those things. So there are many, many, many things. Counseling is okay. To know that if you need help, it's okay. It's okay to remove the stigma around these things. And I think more we speak about it in our education institutions, the more we normalize these things, the stronger people's EQ will become.
Okay. Harpal Singh ji, let me rope you in here next to just talk about traditions. Now, traditions are very, very important for legacy schools like the Doon School and many others in India and, of course, around the world. As we look forward to the future as well, and I know it's just the start of the panel, but look forward a bit for us as well. How do we continue to make sure that these traditions stay relevant and embrace modernity, or perhaps reinvent themselves as well for the evolving and changing times?
Yeah, well, important question. I think for the young of the future and us educationists who in some ways impact their growing years, this question of combining tradition with modernity is actually a crucial idea for the kind of legacy that we all want to generate. There are a couple of aspects to this. We know that the world is going to change dramatically over the next 20 years. If you ask the experts, particularly on AI, most of them will say that the change is going to be incredible. But if you ask them what is actually likely to be the future, which I asked some of our panelists a little earlier, not too many can define actually what that future will be. Interestingly, 20 years from now, it's every bit likelihood, if you allow yourself to dream a little, which I think we should encourage our children to dream much more than get consumed by the devices that control them these days. If you dream a little bit more, every likelihood that a forum like this, 20 years hence, will have two of us will be all biology like us Homo sapiens. One of us will be half machine and half biology, and the last one will be all machine. There will be a substantive difference in the competencies of the panel that will sit here 20 years hence. So the question is, how does the Homo sapien, how do our young actually cope to become part of that future? And therefore, the distinguishing feature has to be that Homo sapiens, people like us, must ensure that the values and the competencies that we have are the ones that we imbibe and, in fact, nurture in the future. This will become vital, because on the other competencies, like, let's say, the quantum of information, the ability to process at speed, those competencies, these other beings, so to speak, will completely demolish us. So the question to ask ourselves is, what will be those unique qualities that, actually speaking, will allow us to maintain legacy and tradition? And those are the human qualities of feeling. Machines don't feel. They actually just assess. They can analyze. They can deduce, but they don't have inductive abilities. They don't have the ability to dream. They don't have creative power. Those are the kinds of qualities that we should be making sure that the educational systems of the future imbibe. And I want to actually emphasize, there's a wonderful ancient dictum of knowledge in India, and it goes, Vidya dadati vivinayam. In essence, it means this: the objective of education must necessarily be that it creates knowledge.
Yes.
Knowledge must necessarily make you humble. We heard that some time back. Humility actually builds character, and it is character that builds prosperity. And I think those are the kinds of things that we should be encouraging our young, our educators to develop these skills. For instance, this question of mental health. Mental health is an issue of feeling. We want our young to feel good, right? Machines are not going to feel. Our young will feel as they address the future. So it's vitally important that this traditional idea of knowledge leading to humility, humility leading to character, and character causing the prosperity that you desire. I think those are some of the things that we'll have to do as we combine tradition with modernity.
Absolutely. And as we look, to the future, something that is now going to be a constant, Nishad, and I'll rope you in on that. Already Vasvi is weighed in on EI, but let's just talk a bit about AI as well. What do you believe is going to be the role of AI in education? And how can a core and strong value set help determine the role of AI as well? Also, if you look over the years at how education has changed, do you believe also some of the values in imparting education have also eroded or stayed constant? And if they have, how do we mitigate that? Again, you're on mute.
Yeah, sorry, I got to remind myself to unmute every time. So yeah, that was a really passionate response from Harpal. Thank you. A lot to unpack there, but let's just sort of concentrate on AI. And what's the role of AI in education? So let me just start with sort of two quick stories. The first one is from, you may have heard of the study from MIT where there's some 54 subjects of people from age 18 to 39, and their job was to train them to be able to write good SAT essays. And there were three groups. The first group was not allowed to use any technology at all. The second group was allowed to use Google search, and the third group was allowed to use ChatGPT and AI. So what they found in a nutshell at the end of the study was that the AI group had the lowest brain engagement. And so the sort of headlines out of that particular study was that children lose their creativity if they use ChatGPT, which I didn't agree with, but I'll talk about it in a little more detail. There's another program I saw on the BBC called AI Decoded, where there are a whole lot of teachers in the UK who were very unhappy with this Gemini homework app that was apparently making students do their homework for them. And they were kind of up in arms and felt like that particular app needed to be banned. And, this is, when you have studies like this, I think it's really important that we interpret the data really carefully. And also, we have to be careful about how do we create a school-wide policy for AI, because it is going to affect us in a big way. And we have to really think about how we can use this incredible tool, right? So this is when I mentioned the value of scholarship, this is when we look at scholarship. And what should scholarship be about? Scholarship should be about deep learning. And what do we understand by deep learning? Deep learning means a lot of friction. It means a lot of hard work. It means a lot of rigor. I often say to my students, you need a lot of time to struggle before you can really solve a difficult problem. So struggle, friction, these are all part of deep learning. Now think about ChatGPT and think about AI. Okay, that's resistance, right? That's frictionless, no resistance at all. So therefore, in terms of AI or ChatGPT doesn't need to be part of our deep learning process. So we kind of have to flip the script a little bit, where we say, okay, let's do the learning, right, for homework. After all, ChatGPT, you can ask it questions, it can create problems for you, you can practice it. Let's do the learning for homework, where you flip the classroom, and then we come to classroom and no technology is allowed. And that's where you do your deep thinking. Right, so it's a matter of making sure that you preserve your values, in this case, as scholarship, and make sure that we don't ignore the deep learning part of it. And as long as we provide some kind of facility for the deep learning, I think we should be fine.
Yes.
So that's the first one. Do you still want me to go on about the ethics, or do you want me to come back to that
briefly.
later?
I'll give you about 30, 45
Okay.
seconds more, and then I'll interject. Yes.
Okay, yeah, the ethics is a very. I actually have a longer story for that, but let me say what I can. So here's the way I think this is a really important one in terms of values being eroded, right? Now, if you think of the right-wing activist Charlie Kirk, who was very recently assassinated. And the governor of Utah actually said in his comments that literally all the recent assassinations and all the recent killings that happened in America have their roots in social media. And basically, it's the evil algorithms that have radicalized these people. And you know, they're not wrong about that. If you only have to read Sarah Wynne Williams' book, Careless People, where she's a sort of executive in Facebook and knows Mark Zuckerberg really well and sees his the way he works. And she makes it very clear that Zuckerberg gives a damn about ethics and morals. All he cares about is his bottom line. And that is the case for a lot of tech people because they have to make money, otherwise they can't survive. Mark Zuckerberg was a boarding school student. He's from Exeter Academy. And then you have to ask yourself, so then was Zuckerberg asleep when Exeter Academy was delivering their moral and ethical education? Or is it that the moral and ethical education has eroded in Exeter? And I suspect it's a little bit of the latter because you think about our schools, they have their roots in the English public school system, right? And it was people like Arnold who would preach muscular Christianity from the pulpit. And
Okay.
that was sort of Bible lessons that would provide this moral.
You made a couple of interesting points there, and of course, given some food for thought for the audience as well, because I will come to the audience in a few minutes. But, Arun Kapur, let me take that to you. Vasvi Bharatram already in her opening comment spoke about why she feels a boarding school education is much more valuable than, say, a day school one. What is your opinion on this? Why?
I didn't say that.
Oh, okay.
I said there are many things that they do a lot better.
Okay. Many things they do a lot better. Why and how do you believe a boarding school education continues to stay relevant and will continue to in the changing, country that we live in?
Well,
and the more globalized schools as well that we are seeing.
so responding to what she just clarified, there is no one size fits all. We have in the Doon School many examples of two brothers. One hated it, one loved it, right? So they come from the same home, they have everything. So this whole aspect that a boarding school is the sure-shot cure for everything is not true. There are many boarding schools. If you are saying boarding schools like Doon School, then let's have a different conversation. But if you're using the word boarding school to go across to non-Doon School boarding schools, there are a lot to be desired there. Some of them are hellholes. Some of them are money-making machines. So let's first differentiate in that generic conversation. I think I spent 12, 13 years in the Doon School as a master. All of you have spent it as a student. So there are two perspectives to it. I think I learned a lot from my students, from my peers, from my seniors, from Nishad's father, Gulab, Eric Simeon, Guru. I mean, what happens in a boarding school, I think, as we get students from different parts of the country, we also get masters from different parts of the country, which does not happen in a day school. So even the teachers are localized as far as possible. So it's in a boarding school like the Doon School that you could have people like Guru, you had Charlie, Sheil Voraz, of the world, who then made the school, right? So that's the big difference, I think, that happens in a properly designed, properly staffed faculty school, because those are the things that make the school. So that's the ability to attract teachers and faculty from different parts of the world, I think is the huge advantage that a boarding school has over a day school. And then the whole collection of students from all over the place. So these two diverse populations, is what makes the school. This interaction between the adult and the child in the equation is what makes a Doon School or any school or boarding school of character still relevant, still required. And I think going out into the future, that's going to make the difference. The kind of faculty that you attract and the kind of students that you attract. If keeping this in mind, can I just go a little bit to the AI aspect? Because I think that's something that I've spent a fair amount of time thinking about and talking about. So this term AI, which everybody refers to as artificial intelligence, I think we need to re-understand, if there's such a word, what AI actually stands for. It's augmenting intelligence is what I have been talking about for over 10, 12 years. That moment you use the word artificial intelligence, then what you're doing is you're outsourcing your thinking to this technology. And then you're dumbing yourself down. On the other hand, you have to reverse this. Use the technology to augment your intelligence. It changes the game, right? Augmenting intelligence is here to stay. Intelligence is here to stay. As he said just now, in the next few years, panel might be bio, non-bio, robotic. But this ability to use technology to augment your intelligence, I think, is the flip. And it's places like the Doon School can actually do this. They have the wherewithal to deal with curriculum, to deal with the requirements of the future. And I think losing that opportunity would not be such a great thing for boarding schools going forward.
Okay. What about alumni bodies now and robust and strong alumni associations, Harpal Singh? How can they aid the education process and model for the better?
You know, if you think about it, some of the most dramatic changes that happen globally in societies, there are always institutions of communities that get together.
Yes.
Right? As far as the Doon School is concerned, we had two primary objectives that were set by the founders. One was that we were going to build young men of character who would lead independent India. And the second one, which I think is equally important, if not at some measure, even more important, is that we would become an aristocracy of service. We will serve. And this entire current thinking, this is only one life, this is only one time that you live, this entire focus on me is absolutely, I think it's an obnoxious idea, frankly. What you should do, everybody, should certainly think about themselves, but a significant portion of life must be addressed to the other, whether it is your family, your alma mater, your country, or whichever way that you wish to look at it. That's what we should be doing. So societies like alma maters of schools and colleges and the like actually build the ethos of that institution. They nurture a group of people who come together for a short period of time. It's only 5 years, and we are here 60 years hence or 100 years hence, and yet many of us talk the same language. We have the same feelings. We sort of stretch out and reach out to others who are in trouble. That, actually speaking, is the real power of alma mater. And you can just see the way this particular one has evolved. Every single president of the Old Boys Society.
And it's great to see so many of them in the room today.
And there are many here. It's amazing how each one of them has contributed to making this an even more expansive, inspiring, and actually a very encouraging institution. That's the power of alma mater. And I hope that we continue to do that in the way that the Doon School Old Boys Society has done.
Absolutely. And it's a model for the rest of the country as well. Coming to you now, Vasvi, Bharatram, on teaching methods as well. Do you believe they have evolved adequately over time? How can they continue to evolve for the better? And how do we make our students more adaptive for this globalized world? At the end of the day, how do we make sure our education is very practical as well for them, as they grow up and then impart into this big bad world?
But can I just add one
Please.
point to each? So when you spoke about it, about 5 years ago, there was this big debate about teachers versus AI. But it is not that. It is teachers who use AI versus teachers who don't use AI. That is, the teachers who use AI, use the augmented intelligence, are the ones who are going to actually survive in this world. And when we were, so I don't know if I'm running the Shri Schools, which is 36 years old, and we were going to build our alumni association, and the people we turned to were all DOSCOs. Mr. Lalit Nirula, my father-in-law, Mr. Arun and Bull Sird, the eternal DOSCO. We brought them in and we said, tell us how Doon School has done it, and how can we do it in such a way that we build the kind of community that you DOSCOs have. So I don't know any other school, and I know many of them, who have this kind of camaraderie and this kind of brotherhood. So really, it's quite amazing. Coming back to your question, the world is changing, children are changing, learning methods are changing, learning materials are changing. Teachers just have to keep up. So the differences more are that teachers have become facilitators. They are not chalk and talk and they are telling you what to do. The children many times know way more than the educators in the room now because they have so much information at hand. So teachers need to keep up. They need to be facilitators. The inquiry is very much more student-led now. Technology is, of course, it's a disruptor, but it's also a great enabler if it is used correctly. The world has become the classroom. A child sitting in a small village with Wi-Fi can access Khan Academy. They can access the best education from around the world if they have the desire to do so. So many, many things have changed, and I think a lot of it is good. What we do need to keep in mind is that the role of the teacher is never going to go. In fact, the role of the teacher is getting more and more important, as a guide, as a mentor, as someone that they can come and speak to, someone who can enable a supportive environment like we've spoken about. So whatever it is, however much it changes, the teacher is always at the center of it. I really do believe that.
Okay. Nishad, as far as now, because you're joining us from the United States today, you've seen the Indian system very closely, and now you're, of course, seeing the system in the United States of America. Where do you see things for Indian education vis-a-vis the US? Globally, how much have we changed, adapted, evolved in India vis-a-vis global standards? And how can we, in areas that we haven't as yet, become more globally competitive in this sector and field?
So yeah, that's it. Oh. Can you hear me? Yes.
Yeah,
so that's
absolutely.
an interesting question. And I think both Arun and Vasvi actually answered the question by saying there is so much variety and there's so much unevenness, should I say, in education, not just in India, but around the world. So it's really difficult to compare a whole country to the rest of the world or even to the US because you'll find that because there's so much cross-pollination, because there's so much mobility of teachers moving around from country to country, you'll find that there are some schools in India who do things a lot better than some schools in the US. Similarly, within the school itself, you will find that there are teachers who do it better than others, right? So I feel like the world has flattened and we're all learning from one another. So, if there are gaps between, say, India and the rest of the world, quite often it's to do with the resources. And the other thing I would point out is that the Indian system is basically based on the British system, which is an exam-based system. And so that, in a sense, also is a bit of a constraint because in the US, we're not constrained by any examination system. Maybe that's why Mr. Arun Kapur has the Bhutanese baccalaureate because, he wanted to move away a little bit from the other systems. But where I think India can do better, or where I think schools like Doon can do better, is actually balance our curriculum, leverage our Indian heritage so that it's not just an Anglo-Saxon framework, but an Indian framework as well. You only have to read the NEP, the National Education Policy for India, which is really such an amazing document. It's one of the best education documents I've ever read. And so they're moving from 10 plus 2 to 5 plus 3 plus 3 plus 4. And I know those numbers don't add up because they've added some more years in pre-kindergarten. But the important thing is that they're talking about 4 years for high school. And that means we could actually do away with the 10 class examination. And that really gives you the opportunity to really leverage the your Indian heritage, because right now most of our exam systems are leaning more towards sort of an Anglo-Saxon system. And just to give you an example of what I mean by that very, very quickly, is think about someone like, let's take a cricket analogy, right? Because I saw my friend Donnie Singh in the audience earlier. So let's take a cricketing analogy. Think of someone like Virat Kohli, right? He, in a presentation, can speak. He's incredibly articulate, and I would say more articulate than his peers from Australia, from England, who are actually English speaking, right? That's their first language. And then Kohli can do the exact same thing in Hindi without batting an eyelid. Same with Sunil Gavaskar. I love listening to Gavaskar sort of commentate, right? He is really to the point, and then he'll walk out of the English commentary box and walk straight into the Hindi commentary box and do exactly the same. So I feel that we really have the opportunity at places like Doon to create a Doon curriculum that gives our students a framework that is Eastern as well as Western. So we have that wonderful sort of balance, that other students wouldn't have access, other people in the world would not have access to.
That's an interesting point you've made. And I often hear that as well, because I anchor programs for our English channel NewsX and also for our Hindi channel India News. And I often get this comment that you speak very good Hindi for a DOSCO. अब मुझे फिर उदाहरण देने पड़ते हैं कि और भी बहुत अनुभवी वक्ता हैं हमारे स्कूल से. I'm showing off some of my Hindi for those of you, including our closing speaker today, our chief guest. He perhaps will be speaking in English today, but he can speak as good Hindi as well. Any of you want to quickly take the NEP? Nishad brought up a very interesting point about the NEP, which is the biggest document these days for the education sector. Any of you would quickly want to weigh in on that before we open it up to the audience? Yes, Harpal.
Yeah, I would say that in addition to whatever it is that we are wanting to do for young people, obviously we want to improve their competencies to address the future, which is a highly uncertain future. And there are qualities of adaptability, flexibility, resilience that we need to nurture. But might I suggest that one larger purpose that we should imbibe for ourselves is this. Whilst we will produce the smartest minds through the educational processes, let's not give up the idea, or actually let's promote the idea that we will also produce the wisest hearts.
Can I just come in on the NEP? Nishad said it's a great document. It is. Right, so that's not the debate. How do you implement it? I mean, that's the whole idea of any document that you look at. So while the NEP is there, fantastic, many years ago, when I was on the board, I had started this whole aspect of the Doon School curriculum, right? That the Doon School should have its own curriculum and take from all over the world. And then, and the curriculum goes way beyond just maths and history, and there's much more to it, the skills, the processes. And I think that a lot of work has happened on the Doon School curriculum, and the Doon School then has the ability to implement that curriculum and make changes as fast as you want them to. Yes. While the NEP was so many years in the making, it's fantastic. What do you take from it? Take from it to your Doon School curriculum, and then take your Doon School curriculum to other like-minded schools who would be very happy to imbibe from the Doon School curriculum, whether they're day schools or boarding schools. So that's what I wanted to add to the very valid point that she made.
That's what you've done in Bhutan, right?
Yeah.
You created your own curriculum over there, and I believe it's fantastic.
Amazing. Okay, let's open it up now. I will end with a rapid fire, but first let's get some audience questions. Please, let's get the mic around and begin our Q&A.
I just want to say about NEP, while it lays down what we should do, there is no guidance on the how.
Nothing.
There is just no guidance on the how. Because what it's saying makes complete sense, but where do we get the teachers? Where do we get the resources? And I'm not talking about us, I'm talking about Bharat.
Nishad is wanting to quickly come in there. This
Yeah,
is becoming
so
a bit of a
that's
TV debate. I apologize for that. But yes, with everyone coming
But that's
in.
why I
quickly,
feel
10 seconds.
schools like Doon, who can interpret this in a way that's constructive, should take the lead. Exactly what Arun Kapur said. We should take the lead in the name of the NEP, because there's so much amazing stuff in there that we can use for a Doon School curriculum.
Absolutely. Yes, please go ahead. Sumanjit Chaudhary. It's not, there's another mic there.
Hello? Yeah, this is better. So everyone's talked a lot about change. And change is something that we see a lot around us in India. Doon School was originally modeled and founded on the concept of an English public school. And it is extraordinary how much it is still like it in so many ways today. When I went to study in England, the first thing I noticed was how incredibly similar, our Doon School is. Now, the question I have for the panel today is that India is becoming very Indian, and the leadership of this country is becoming very Indian. What is it that we can do in the Doon School going forward to stay more relevant to the society that is evolving around us today?
Nishad, why don't you take that? Because you made some point which was sort of talking briefly about that as well. Why don't you answer that?
Yeah, so I do think, again, I'll sort of harp on about the curriculum, but before saying something about the curriculum, I think that's a very, very important question. And I think there's a certain urgency in it as well. Because, we're talking about sort of relevancy of boarding schools, but I worry that boarding schools are struggling. Just look at the numbers. And I mean, look at a school like Doon. We're the best boarding school in the country. We have 1.2 billion people and we have fewer than 400 people applying. And I think that's a lot of reason for concern. And because parents from around India who don't know Doon, who don't know our sort of value system, they look at numbers and they look at data and they look at acceptance rates, they look at our results, they look at our college placements, and they ask themselves the question, so why should we send our child to Doon? When the numbers in the city schools, they kind of caught up, right? They're just as good. So that's why I think that's a very good question. For us to stay relevant, I do believe we have to offer something that other schools cannot offer. And that is where Sumanji spoke about the fact that we are modeled on the English public schools, and the Americans were also modeled in those English public schools. But that's why we had Sanskrit, right? We had 2 years of Sanskrit. But I'll just finish. But the difference is that in the West, they have Latin 1, Latin 2. That was based on Latin, right? Latin 1, Latin 2, Latin 3, Latin 4, AP Latin. They're translating text. In India, we stop after 1 or 2 years of Sanskrit. We don't go any further. We should be going to the Upanishads. We should be translating. You have a child who can be equally conversant with Sanskrit as they can with the Anglo-Saxon text. And suddenly, there's the value added there is just incredible.
Okay. Great.
So,
yes.
I have a question.
Please. First, why don't you introduce yourself, sir?
Closer.
You can introduce yourself and your badge.
Yeah, well, I just want to say something about what I'm hearing, and I'm a 65 batch, so maybe an old fogey like Harpal. But I think we've forgotten the aristocracy of service. We've talked about ourselves, we've talked about our successes, we talked about how good we are. We talked about how great the school is. And we're still worried about what's going to happen in the future. I don't think we should worry. There's enough money here, and there's enough knowledge here to get back to aristocracy of service. Service, I mean selfless service.
Absolutely.
Like Harpal does. For the community, there's still 30% of India living below the poverty line. And we will not become a developed nation or better unless...
do you have a question, or is that a point,
It's a
larger point?
Both. So, if we don't go through to the education of the villages, where people can get that AI to educate them and lift the standard of everyone, and let's start, if we can, by the school adopting a village.
Okay.
Can we adopt a village? Give me 1 second more.
I'll get a response. So I need to get as many people as possible, but I've got your moot point.
Yeah.
Who would like to address that? Any of the panel? you would want to respond. Please.
Happily
Mr.
talk
And in
about-
fact, the next panel is on aristocracy of services. But anyways, I got your point. Yes.
So I think what the gentleman is talking about is, I thought it was unsaid. Because that's the core of what the Doon School does, right? In everything, we must remember that it is from the Doon School that the whole country, all the schools in the country, have got something called SUPW. It started in 1935 at the Doon School. It is when Rajiv Gandhi was the Prime Minister that he took that idea and put it into the curriculum of the whole school, or whole country. And yeah, that started from the Doon. So a lot of these things have come from there. And I think what got left unsaid so far in the Quran, and I'm glad you pointed that out, is what makes a Doon School student, DOSCO, I'm not using the word, I think what a person who comes out of a school like the Doon School becomes a constructive, contributory citizen of a just and harmonious society. I think somewhere that is the main thing at the back. However good you speak English or play cricket, though it was said that the school was modeled on the English public school system, but who it was modeled for was very, very different, could not have been more different. It was modeled to create the future leaders
So that's
of
where
India.
modules like SUPW can come in, and also, of course, service projects, which also are there. In fact, a lot of the boys of the Doon School do the Duke of Edinburgh Award scheme, where it is compulsory to, of course, take up a service as well. I hope that answered yours, but you can continue this conversation after. Okay, yes.
Hi, Rakesh Kaushik from the batch of 79. To put my question to Vasvi, because you are outside the Doon School system. You know, the challenge of language, after listening to Mr. Amitabh Kant, you know, the insane kind of vision and challenge we have to develop India, I see both English as an enabler as well as a challenge in India. And having worked in corporations around the world where English was not the first language, and even in India, I found the best ideas came from people in vernacular or from those whose language was what it was. So I want to ask you, what can be done in schools to celebrate language and not to make English a passage to, social acceptance?
Okay.
Thank you. So NEP has also addressed this. NEP 2020 has said that you can actually study in your mother tongue. That's one of the visions that they have, that English is not the only sort of language that you can study in. But unfortunately, for all of us, India is many states put together. And English is literally the only language that we all speak. So that is a legacy of the British. It could be a good thing or a bad thing, but that is the truth. In Delhi schools, Hindi is the mother tongue. We insist, we also are always told that our Shri Ram school students don't speak enough Hindi, don't speak good enough Hindi. It's always an endeavor for us that we do many activities that encourage the local language, the national language in our case. Across the south especially, the southern states, there is a lot of pride in their local language. There is a lot of activity that happens in the local language. Curriculum is also transacted. Somehow in the north, Hindi is not given that same importance. I agree with you, and I think it's something that we all have to be more mindful about.
Uday, can I just make a comment on that?
Go ahead. We can hear you.
Oh, I'm already. It's a very basic and fundamental question. What we love in the world today, and I hope that we honor it even more, respect it even more, is the ability to deal with diversity. This country is absolutely fantastic in the diversity it has. And language actually encompasses a lot of the diversity, including identity, which has become so critical for us as individuals. I think technology will solve the problem of whether I can speak English, Hindi, or Urdu, or Tamil. Technology will solve that problem. What we do need to do is to make sure that communities are allowed to live in their respective languages, grow in that, build the diversity around that. That, to my mind, should be the approach for the future. How can we build even more diversity in this wonderfully already diverse country, and language is a critical one. So let's not get caught into the politics of language, which really speaking seems to determine
Which often happens.
the future.
Okay, yes, okay.
I need to say one word on language.
Very quickly, sir, yes.
Sorry, I'm eating this delightful pan bahar, something or the other over here. So I'm just giving an example of how we deal with this back home. We have 4 languages that we deal in Bhutan, that the system that we put. One is Dzongkha, which is the local language. One is English. The third language is mathematics. If you teach mathematics as a language, it changes the whole landscape. And you understand science and you understand English through the language of mathematics. And the fourth language that we teach everybody is sign language, so that you understand the other immediately when you're talking about the otherness and diversity. So taking away understanding of language in its narrow space, it opens up communication in a way which Mr. Kant had said was one of the most important aspects.
Okay. I did promise to end with a rapid fire, so I'm afraid we've run out of time. But we will continue this conversation off the stage as well, because at the end of the day, today is all about celebrating the DOSCO spirit, and education is a very strong aspect of it. So let's do a quick rapid fire. Nishad Das, your favorite subject in school and one teacher who changed your school life.
My favorite subject was always mathematics. Well, mathematics, physics, but I would say mathematics. I love mathematics, but I think the teacher who changed my life was Charlie Kandari. The way he taught was just so funny, and
I learned so much from him.
yeah. I would love to give stories, but since this is rapid fire, I can't give you any stories.
You can't. Yes. We'll continue that off record, off camera. Yes, Harpal Singh. Your favorite subject in school and one teacher who changed your school life or your life?
I have to say that there is no one particular subject. What I would like to say is that the wholesome education, the environment that the school provided.
No, in school, what was your favorite subject? Just a lighter question.
My favorite subject?
Yes.
My favorite subject is geography.
Geography, okay. Any teacher?
Well, it has to be actually Gurdiyal Singh. So
Gurdiyal Singh, okay.
What can one do? And Harry Dang, for that matter.
Okay.
Harry Dang and Gurdiyal Singh, yes.
Okay. Mr. Kapur?
Well, I was there as a teacher, I learned a lot. And one of the things there were 2 things, if you don't, one was geography. I learned from Charlie and from Gurdiyal Singh a lot. And the other, which got me a lot, was physics. I got from Mr. Pitre and Mr. Dixit. They were amazing people. I had, if you give me 30 seconds, I met Mr. Dixit and Mr. Pitre and Mr. Ominder Singh together within the first week of my being there. And we talked about physics.
Okay.
And they were all amazing minds.
Okay. You've taught a lot of kids a lot of things. What was your favorite subject while you were a kid?
Oh, actually, bits of it was history, but
History.
I also...
History, I'll take history. Yes, Vasvi Bharat, last word to you. Last word to a lady.
So I didn't study at Doon School, but I'm a DOSCO at heart. So my favorite teacher was Mr. Arun Kapur.
Okay.
Clap.
Favorite subject?
My favorite subject was English.
Okay, fantastic. Well, you all have been fantastic teachers for all of us, I'm sure, in the room as well. And we've imbibed a lot from this panel, and I do promise we will continue this off the stage as well. But thank you all for being a very engaging audience as well, and thank you to our panelists for a very enriching session.
Thank you, Harpal.
Thank you, Uday.
Thank you, Uday.
And my favorite teacher was Mr. Arun Kapur.
Thank you so much to our panelists and our moderator.
Okay?
We have a small token of appreciation. So if you could just stay on stage. Ladies and gentlemen, we've had two incredibly rich discussions, and it seems like the perfect moment to take a well-deserved break. So we'll pause for tea and refreshments, and we'll start the third panel at roughly 6:20 p.m. Two requests from our side. One is that we have memento bags for all attendees. So kindly collect those from the counters outside. And the second is that the DSOBS has been conducting a database updation exercise, and a standee is here for that purpose. So if you could please scan the QR codes and fill the form. It takes 2 minutes and will greatly help the society in functioning more efficiently. Thank you so much.